I am a firm believer in AGI, artificial general intelligence, us creating super intelligent AI systems that are smarter than we are, smarter than humans are, right? And I really view this as mankind's final challenge. It's our final challenge to create intelligence greater than ourselves, because once we create intelligence greater than ourselves, it does all the rest for us. We're trying to understand, okay, how is this technology evolving? Reading into kind of the futurist lens of AI, I kind of put the pieces together in my head and came to my own conclusion that this technology from GPT-1 to 2 to 3 is advancing so rapidly. We're seeing some sort of exponential growth here. And if this continues, the whole world is going to change in just incomprehensible ways in the next few years. Immediately having these small living room discussions, we could tell that there is something special forming, just in the energy that people are bringing, the ideas that we were discovering together during those events, and we knew that this is something we had to keep doing.
And they're very grassroots.
Yes,
easy.
And entirely grassroots. Where we are today, we have over 40,000 members in the community across all of our chapters, over 25 chapters globally, and we've hosted over 200 events.
You are listening to AI Insights San Francisco by Roan Weigert.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of AI Insights here in San Francisco. Today, I'm with Chappy. We're going to go over about the GenAI Collective and about his story, how he got involved with AI. Chappy, thank you so much to be here today.
Happy to be here.
All right. So can you explain your story to inspire other people to get involved with the GenAI, with AI?
Yes. Okay, so happy to talk about my backstory, my history through technology, through AI, and here to where I am today. So I'd say my love or interest for technology started back when I was in fourth grade or so. So I went to this kind of different school where even in fourth grade, we were all required to have laptops. And we brought our laptops around with us to different courses. So I would take English class and I'd have my computer out, and go over to technology class, which we had back in fourth grade, and would have my computer out at all times. So in this school, the way that you would signify that you were cool is like you would do the coolest terminal hacks in your computer. You type away and like make your computer do cool things. So all the way back in fourth grade, I was tricking out my computer, trying to understand the inside of how things work. I was getting really into Photoshop and to SketchUp, which is like 3D CAD software. So developed, I'd say, like tech literacy and just a fascination with tech from a very young age. I started reading TechCrunch as well back in fourth grade. And that's really where things started. I started to pick up more and more technical aspects of technology and AI as I got further into my childhood. When I was 12 years old, I picked up programming in Python and C++. Eventually, I got an iPod. My parents gave me an iPod, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to make applications for this thing. So I taught myself Objective-C and taught myself Xcode and was able to start building very simple apps that I would just use to like track how much money I had in the piggy bank, like simple stuff like that. And it just kind of continued to develop from there. Eventually, I started publishing apps on the App Store. I ended up somehow back in high school creating the #1 homework app in the world, which I sold near the end, or beginning of college actually was when I sold that. Built another app, which I still use to today, called Weightlifting app to track all my workouts. And as I got later into high school, I was lucky that I was able to take AI classes back in high school. I took a lot of computer science, AP computer science, eventually went to University of Washington to study computer science. And my favorite courses by far when I was in college were classical AI as well as machine learning courses, learning about everything from classic ML techniques to deep learning to computer vision and stuff like that. And that's when I started to get really hooked, really fascinated. Now, how that translates to today is right around that time that I was getting ready to graduate, GPT-3 came out. And this was when I was getting ready to write my final paper, one of my final papers in college, and decided to write it on GPT-3 and what the implications, the ethical, societal implications of GPT-3 were. And as I was doing my research for that, trying to understand, okay, how is this technology evolving? Reading into kind of the futurist lens of AI, I kind of put the pieces together in my head and came to my own conclusion that this technology from GPT-1 to 2 to 3 is advancing so rapidly. We're seeing some sort of exponential growth here. And if this continues, the whole world is going to change in just incomprehensible ways in the next few years. So I really turned and looked internally and said, okay, what does this mean for me, right? I've realized that this technology, I think, is going to be really important. It's going to have an incredible impact on the world. I think I'm a few years ahead of things. It's, 2021 at this point. Like, what do I do with that? And I decided that I wanted to get as close to the cutting edge of technology as I could and stay there, right? I am a firm believer in AGI, artificial general intelligence, us creating super intelligent AI systems that are smarter than we are, smarter than humans are, right?
Right.
And I really view this as mankind's final challenge. It's our final challenge to create intelligence greater than ourselves, because once we create intelligence greater than ourselves, it does all the rest for us, right? Or at least so the thinking goes. So I want to be a part of that however I can. And I figured that back out in 2021, and that's what I wanted to dedicate myself to. So I ended up going to Apple, where I did AI/ML research and development for a summer, and went back there full time. Was on the Vision Pro team, which I like to think was very cutting edge, as well as the earliest parts of the Apple intelligence team. And while I was there, I got to see how the biggest company in the world tackles the biggest new technological opportunity in the world. And that was just absolutely fascinating. I'll say, though, that while I was there, I found that things were moving faster outside. And I decided then that I wanted to go be a part of where I thought the technology, the innovation was moving fastest, which is in the earliest stages. So decided to go start a company with the smartest people I've ever met. And we got to do everything. I learned so much, everything from taking on this challenge of trying to use AI to automate the entire company creation process, iterating on different solutions, trying things out, building, prototyping, iterating very rapidly, raising millions of dollars from top VCs, building out an engineering team, and all those learnings, all that growth I take forward with me to today and what I'm doing now.
Interesting. And now I'm going to understand what you're doing right now. We met at the Gen AI last year, around, I think it was September, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then I went to the first, for my first demo night, and I was just with a camera and started to create some content. I even have the video here that everyone can watch it for that event. And from that, I start to get more involved because I could see this giving this every day or each event that I participated. I start to see more and more people get involved at global scale. Not talk about San Francisco scale, at global scale. And I think people start to get aware of that. That's, like you say, that's the new transformation that the world's happening right now. And that's inspired me to be part of the Gen AI collective. And now we are transitioning for a new name.
Yes.
So I really want to understand first what is, no, I think we can start with the why during this transition of the name, this rebranding. And from this, also, I want to people that doesn't know what is AI Collective.
Yeah.
What is this? What is this community of builders and founders and investors and the entire globe and thousands of people?
Yes, I love it. And there's so much to go into here. There's a lot to talk about when we think about the Gen AI Collective and how it's evolving to the AI Collective. So if I take us back to the beginning, where it started was right after ChatGPT's launch. This was early 2023, and I've told you that AI is something that I've been basically obsessed with for many years up until that point, and I've come up to my own conclusions for how I want to be involved in the AI field, being on the cutting edge and things like that. I would talk my friends' ears off. We'd have these late night conversations about where we thought this was all going and what the impacts would be on the technology itself and the world around it. Now, once ChatGPT hit, you could feel like there's a palpable energy here in San Francisco and really globally, right? Everybody's trying to figure out what it now means to have this super intelligent chatbot in your pocket. Anybody with access to internet now has this intelligent chatbot in their pocket. What does that mean, right? What does that mean for everything? There's so much to that. There's so much to unpack. There's so much uncertainty, and there's no right answers either. And everybody brings a unique and interesting perspective. So we hosted these first events. We were probably one of the first communities to start hosting events here in San Francisco, bringing together the best founders, researchers, investors, anybody who's in the field of AI to just try and grapple with this new technology, where the opportunities are, what the implications are, and everything like that. So immediately having these small living room discussions, we could tell that there is something special forming, just in the energy that people are bringing, the ideas that we were discovering together during those events, and we knew that this is something we had to keep doing.
And they're very grassroots.
Yes,
easy.
And entirely grassroots, right? It was originally just a group of friends who got together and wanted to understand together and stay ahead of the latest AI trends. There was no tall aspirations for world domination or anything like that, but very organically, it just continued to grow. And by the third event, we had over 250 people signed up to attend. We ended up hosting our first large-scale event just a couple months later with, I think, almost 150 people in the room and doing 36 total discussion groups. We went from one discussion group to 36 discussion groups very quickly, and the growth just continued. So that first year really focused on just hosting events as frequently as we could, getting as many people involved as we could here in San Francisco.
Bringing value. Yeah, because
Bringing value.
One thing that I always see, you try to, everything that you're doing into this project, you wanted to try to bring value in each step. Could be even user experience, could be connections. I see a lot of this energy putting into this.
Absolutely. Everything we do is so intentional. That's the word I like to use, is intentional, right? Even down to like the smallest little things with the name tags and having icebreakers on the name tags, to how we form the different volunteer discussion groups. There is so much thought that goes into every aspect of it, because I genuinely believe that most events are not fully thought through. They're not intentional. And that little bit of intentionality by the organizers goes such a long way.
The demo nights are something very interesting, because it is not the long 10, 15 minutes demos with those slides, with problem statements. The demo night that I noticed, it's something very straight to point. 2 minutes, no slides.
Yeah.
How would this idea come about?
It's a great question. So we actually did our very first demo night in conjunction with Product Hunt. And the way that we wanted to think about these demo nights was, what do people actually want to see? What are people going to get most out of attending? And then the people who are demoing, what are they going to get out of the experience as well, right? So when I'm demoing, there are a few things I might be looking for. I might be looking for feedback on my products. I might be looking for investment. I might be looking for people to join my team. Those are some of the most common use cases. And we decided to really hone in on, I want feedback on my products. I want to know if people find this valuable, and maybe I'll even get some customers along the way. That's what we honed in on. And then making it really engaging for people in the audience, right? So we ended up building an entire app, a whole web app that anybody in the audience can use to leave feedback about the product, to basically say, I'm interested in investing, interested in working for you, giving virtual claps. All this stuff is meant to make sure that there is two-way value that is coming from each one of these demo nights. And we're the only group out there that does this.
Yeah, I was talking to Ravij, the CEO of Product Hunt, and one thing that he mentioned was exactly that. How can we convert this digital world, this digital feedback, into in-person events with this culture of grassroots, and be face-to-face with the builders, and the builders get face-to-face with the users or potential users or potential, let's say, partners. Yeah. And I think that's so incredible. And now with the expansion of the AI collective, we can see that people all over the world are going to have this opportunity to have this one-on-one connections. Because once you're doing this virtually, yes, it works. You're going to connect with people all over the world, but the one-to-one connections, it's something very incredible. I want to understand the numbers of the AI collective. Where are we right now?
Where we left off in the story was that we were at one chapter right here in San Francisco. Going into 2024, we really reached this critical mass where we'd have people attending events from New York, from Miami, from Chicago, saying, I love these events and I wish they were in my city, right? So they started asking, okay, can we start hosting Gen AI Collective events in New York, in Miami? And early in that year, we started to say yes and just see how it went, right? And just completely organically, completely through grassroots, we started having chapters pop up in other cities. And I would start flying out to each one of them to try and get those chapters off the ground and make sure that we had that same sort of intense community spirit in every new city that we were going into. And it worked wonderfully. There was so much enthusiasm in every different city we entered. I could tell that there is a kind of a different angle to each community. It was so fascinating to see what AI looks like, what the AI ecosystem looks like in every single city. By the end of the first year, we had hosted over 100 events. We were in 15 cities worldwide. And the growth has just continued from there. So where we are today, we have over 40,000 members in the community across all of our chapters, over 25 chapters globally. And we've hosted over 200 events. And the coolest thing is that this is, again, an entirely grassroots thing. So we have over 100 volunteer organizers, visionaries, local visionaries taking time out of their day to put together these incredible community experiences, bring people together in all these cities around the world.
What other initiatives the AI Collective it is doing to the community?
Yeah, you're right. So up until now, the Gen AI Collective, we've been known for hosting incredible events and creating incredible community in cities around the world, creating these chapters around the world. We've always had much larger ambitions. And in fact, our ambitions have grown as the community has grown, right? So we are firstly doubling down on events and community, that's for sure, as we go into the AI Collective. So that means better events, more events in more cities across the world. Right now, we're at 25 chapters. We expect to be in hundreds of cities, helping to create and support hundreds of local AI ecosystems around the world in the coming years. The pinnacle of that is going to be Singularity Fest, which we're hosting here in San Francisco later this year. This is going to be a week-long of tons of independent events, really taking a look at every different facet of AI. So that includes the technical aspects, as well as the philosophical, the creative, the humanistic aspects of this technology. So that's one, is events and community. The second is the Institute. So what the Institute is, we have all these incredible events that are rich with frontier insights. So you have these people, the community members, pioneers in the frontier, who are playing with these new technologies that just come out, right? And the most incredible insights come from back and forth discussion. How do we take some of those insights? How do we take insights from the community in general and turn that into actionable insight that we can give to decision makers around the world? So that includes policymakers, that includes industry leaders, and that includes the public at large. So that's what the Institute is dedicated towards. And the last piece, the third piece, is that we have thousands of founders. We have hundreds of investors, from top tier VCs, partners at top tier VCs, all the way to independent angel investors. And how do we create a bridge between these thousands of founders who have the incredible ideas, the innovation, the mission aligned attitude, with the people who have the means, the funders, to get these projects, these innovations off the ground? That's what Collective Investments is. It's our founder investor matching program.
Now switching gears for your view on AI and how it has been involved. Can human trust AI?
It's a great question. And my favorite way to answer this is that trust in general is something that I think we should all be paying a lot more attention to. And here's why trust is so important. Trust is what fundamentally allows us to build large-scale, complex society. When you look around us across every single dimension, we rely in trust in each other, trust in our family members, trust in our business partners to create really anything. So trust is what turns strangers into communities. It's what turns communities into economies. That's really how everything we see in the modern day works. It's all built on trust. Now let's look at the state of trust. The state of trust is trust across the board is at an all-time low. So trust in our governments is at an all-time low. Trust in big companies, in our leaders, like our CEOs, our managers, is at an all-time low. Trust in the economy is at an all-time low. Trust in media, trust in healthcare, finance, education, generalized interpersonal trust, as in trust in a random person walking on the street. These are all at all-time lows. That's what our society functions on. That's the invisible operating system, and it's at an all-time low. It's at a dangerously low level. What is the cause for this breakdown in trust? Well, there's numerous reasons. So it's tightly coupled, I'd say, with all the scale, the complexity, the speed of modern life, that just means that there's more room for uncertainty, right? When things are moving faster, when things are more complex, there's necessarily less you know, and you need to rely more on trust. The problem with more complex society is you are increasingly far away, distant from where things are happening. You think about the business leaders or the government politicians of our time and how separated they are from a lot of what happens in every day. That big distance leaves room for people feeling unheard, no accountability, no transparency. And that distance, the remoteness, I like to call it, leads to a lack of accountability, a lack of transparency, and a lack of ownership. That's really where this falling apart of trust comes from.
And how we as a society can contribute this for a better digital trustful world that we can trust systems, but also on a secure way for we don't have cyber attacks, and at the same time we don't get our family or our data or friends in dangers. How do you see we can have this two-way street for systems as a society?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is what we need to address, right? This is what we hope all of our efforts for the AI Collective help to address. So I'll break it down and I'll kind of give 3 different parts of this answer. The first part is maybe at the most atomic level, at the most individual level, how do we start to recreate some sense of trust? I will compare how you and I are talking right now and maybe the depth and complexity at which we can have conversation with what you typically see online, right? You have a fraction, the complexity, the nuance when you're on social media or in the YouTube comments section or Reddit or something like that, that we can have with this back and forth dialogue. Even with something like Zoom or Slack that you think is a little bit closer to what we're doing now, so much of the subtleties, the attention is lost when we're not in person. Majority of communication, some say 93% of communication is nonverbal, right? And you lose most of that when it's on Slack or when it's on Zoom or something like that. It's really important to have and lean into the importance of in-person dialogue. So the first thing we do as the Gen AI Collective or the AI Collective is that we create that space. We create the space for dialogue, for conversation that is nuanced, that is complex, and then also focusing on the human aspect of it, the finding our common human connection. So that means creating spaces where we can be more vulnerable. I find that I am often a ton more vulnerable when I'm having a back and forth dialogue, and then creating space for transparency as well, and creating a space for accountability, ownership. These are all the things that we're trying to kind of lean in towards. So the first thing, number one, is like that creating that in-person space to talk things through, right? That's number one for how we restore trust. Number two is thinking about it more from a systems level, where how can we inform systems, help decision makers make better decisions, right? So this is this is governments, yes, that's what most people tend to think, but it's also industry leaders, and it's also the public at large, right?
Because it goes as a policy making, and then it goes down to companies, and then it goes down to users.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody needs access to more perfect information. So how can we take all these incredible insights that come from these events or from our community at large and turn those into actionable reports, insights for all aspects of decision making? That's number two. And this is just kind of continuing to update our systems and update our institutions. This is an operating system, as I like to talk about it, that in many ways hasn't been updated in decades or even centuries.
Right.
We need to keep that up to date with how fast our technology is moving. And then the third thing I'd say is maybe the hardest to grasp and the hardest to control, the hardest to understand. But I call this our overstory, or the global zeitgeist, the vibe, some people might call it. How do we understand and control what we in general as a society think about the direction we're moving in? Right now, I think people generally are in a state of low trust, are in a state of fear, are in a state of thinking that things are not moving in the right direction, a state of pessimism, division, all these things. How can we change the fundamental narrative, the narrative of our collective intelligence towards something that is more optimistic, abundant, right? A world, think of our world as something that is more trustworthy. I think we can absolutely move in that direction. I think we can absolutely change the zeitgeist of our world, but it's something that will have to happen from the grassroots level. And that's the third thing that we want to do to help restore trust.
That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
If you see, you're well connected with the best and the most impactful startups that are growing fast and faster from Silicon Valley and from the world. So you have access to talk to a lot of people. We already have some discussions about this before. What is the challenges those companies are solving into the world, and at the same time, how can other companies or other entrepreneurs that want to open a company on the AI, how can they be aware of those challenges those companies are solving right now to act right now?
Yeah, there's more opportunity than there's ever been before for new companies, for new innovations, for new products, for creative disruption at large. And the reason is because technology is moving so quickly. If you just think about it almost from first principles here and say, this AI that's in my pocket, what is it capable of? The technology, even in the last few months, has gotten so much more capable. The new models I'm using, like Gemini 2.5, they simply blow my mind. And the gap between the technology, the capability that is available, and what we actually see in the market, that's a very significant gap. You think about, even if you go back to like Uber, for instance, and how long did it take the GPS, mobile phones, access to 3G until we actually had Uber come and take advantage of these converging technologies? It took many years, right?
To impact us in the real world.
Yes, exactly. So the same sort of opportunity is here, where the technology, again, from first principles, is already so capable. There's so much opportunity, and it's all about taking that, bringing a bit of your own creativity, your own executional horsepower, and turning those into products and companies. There's just, again, never been a richer set of opportunity available.
Now, every person that has an idea can transform this idea into something, into a system, into an app, and even non-technical people can create those things. With the new wave that just coming up with the vibe coding, when you just prompt your ideas and then the system starts to create and you have an MVP by the end of your day, rather than have a huge team around this. Empower a lot of people to create things and validate things before actually put it into production. But the problem is some people are put this softwares into production right now. And what is the challenges that you see with this new wave of vibe coding that can affect negatively into the world?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something we're figuring out, right? Because vibe coding is so brand new. It, in all intents and purposes, did not exist a year ago. And we're figuring out what the ramifications are. And the answer changes on a weekly, certainly on a monthly basis, because the technologies are getting so much better. So right now, it might feel like we're crawling, and it might feel like whenever you try and push these solutions to production, that things fall apart, or perhaps a lot less nimble than we had hoped they were. That's going to fix itself, I think, in a matter of weeks and months. I'm pretty confident about that. Now, what is like maybe the broader overlying observation here? It's that the technology is going to keep getting better, and it's up to you to be on the very frontier crust of that knowledge. And there are ways to do that, but I think the very best is by spending time with other people who are also on that frontier with you. And that's certainly what our community is for, and for so many other communities. It's just a matter of bringing together the sharpest pioneers in the frontier, as I like to call them, to exchange these ideas. Okay, I tried this on this code gen platform, and I tried this on this vibe coding platform, and exchanging those ideas, that's what's going to allow you to stay on the very cutting edge. So when something shifts and all of a sudden production is much more feasible using a vibe coding platform, you're going to know that the day of.
That's very interesting when you told me the speed of how those technologies are changing. It's on weekly basis. I'm working as an AI engineering and developer relations, and I'm able to see what other companies are doing and what the company I'm working on right now. You need to be fast, because if you stay behind a month or a couple weeks, another company is going to go there, going to take your market share. So it's very competitive market right now. How do you see the evolution of AI tools and AI applications and AI policies? And now, before I used to ask this question 5 to 10 years. We need to short this time frame.
Yes.
I would say 6 months to a year, maybe 5 maximum. How do you see that?
Yeah. It's a fascinating debate that I think everybody in the industry has been having for many years now. Is AI fundamentally a democratizing force, or is a force that coalesces power, wealth, influence, right? As in, are we going to fast forward 5 years, and is it just going to be the large open AIs and Anthropics and Metas of the world that own everything and capture all the value? Or are we going to see a world where there's space for everybody to create and for everybody to build value? My optimistic vision of the future is that AI is the most incredible tool, force for the democratization of creativity and intelligence that we've ever seen, right? Again, you can pull out your phone now. If you have access to the internet, you can go have a chat with a super intelligent agent, right? You can go generate images, incredible images. You can go generate music. You can go generate entire vibe coded apps. And that's all possible on your phone with access to the internet. That's incredible how we've gotten to this point. And what I see is, okay, you have what the very best human is capable of producing in terms of whether it's visual, audio, whatever it may be, whatever form of content. And the ability for the average person, for any person to go create, that is getting closer and closer to the cutting edge, right? Where I'd say like the music that I can create as somebody using a generative music platform is about 90% as good as an actual artist. So that is compressing the delta between what the average person can make and what the world's best can make. And I think that means that there's a ton more room for anybody to build anything and go compete, put themselves out there. So I like to think that AI in the future is going to look like unlocked creativity, unlocked freedom, and hopefully unlocked abundance for all. And it will really be a democratizing force.
One question that I want to ask you is, I got this question from the talk that I watch with the CEO of Grammarly. What AI cannot do that only humans can do?
Yeah. So my cop-out answer would be, this is going to change on a week-by-week basis, but let me go a little deeper here. And the deeper answer for me personally is, this was fundamentally the realization that I had back in 2020 when I was writing my final paper on GPT-3, right? And trying to understand the implications for myself. And the conclusion that I came to is that all these skills that I had spent the first decade of my career building, all these technical skills, right? Eventually, AI would be better at coding than I would. It would be better at engineering than I would. And that was kind of an existential crisis for me, because coding was like a large source of my identity up until that point, right? What did that mean for me when I'm looking to, when I'm just graduating from college, thinking about what is my career going to be, right? And I was forced to sit down and wrestle with my thoughts, have conversations with people, and try and figure this out, what this means. And the conclusion that I came to, and I think this is a very personal answer that's different for everybody. My personal answer was, I think what is going to be a durable source of value for me as a person, and where I'm going to find meaning and purpose in my life and joy, is relationships, my ability to relate to other people. And again, up until then, it had always been about like me and relating to computers, I guess, right? And this was my shift towards, okay, I need to focus on my relationships, my ability to really connect with other people, and particularly in person, right? I do think that one of the last things that AI is going to be able to do better than us is to relate in person, right? I don't foresee there being android robots that are going to be more realistic than humans or better at relating to humans in person, right? So that's what I decided back then in 2021 to really focus on. And that is what I continue to focus on more and more. So again, it's a roundabout way to answer your question of what do I think is going to be the final frontier of what it means to be human is really that relationships aspect, the in-person, and the community.
What do you recommend for people to get more involved with AI? It could be people like software engineers that want to get more involved, could be entrepreneurs, could be even people that are working in the companies and want to implement AI on their daily system, or they want to just know more about this.
It is such an exciting time to be in the field of AI because of how fast it's moving. It's really where all the brightest minds in the world are going. I have a ton of friends in finance and in other fields who are gravitating towards AI and to entrepreneurship right now because I recognize this is where all the brains are going. So my first call to you is just get involved in any way. I start attending events, start meeting people who are in the field, and just through osmosis, just through being around these really smart, driven people, that's going to take you a large part of the distance. And then for me, I really like to try and get a grasp of like, what is the bigger picture? What is the through line here? And I think you might be able to find that in videos, you might be able to find that in TikTok or something, but I think where you're going to really find that is in books. I've always been a huge advocate for books. You can go check my website. I have book notes for hundreds of books that I've read there. I'm a huge bookworm. The two books that I always recommend to people, if they're looking to get into AI, if they're looking to understand the big picture here, these were the books that fundamentally altered my worldview, back in 2020, 2021 that I was talking about. One is Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, and the other is The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil. Both of these books were written almost 10 plus years ago, 10 and close to 15, 20 years ago, but they are still spot on with their predictions about where AI is going and what the next couple of decades are going to look like. If you want to get that big picture of where this is all going, why it's so important, and what I think 99.999% of people are missing out there in the world, that's what's going to put it all together for you. And then I'll also say, just in general, this is a more important time to be exploring, learning than ever before. And what I mean by that is for any person, any human, any organization even, there is the explore, exploit trade-off. So the explore, exploit trade-off is you can either spend time like capitalizing on the skills, the assets that you already have, or you can spend new time learning new things, trying to acquire new skills, and these are exploring new opportunities to go exploit value later. So there's this trade-off, right? You can spend 100% of your time just producing, or you can spend a lot of that time trying to learn and trying to create, trying to one-up yourself. Now more than ever, any time in the history of life, it is about exploring because there is so much happening. The world is constantly shifting on a weekly basis, as we already established. So you need to be spending so much more time than you probably think exploring, trying new things, being highly creative, and being very open to changing your mind and changing your workflows, changing your approach to life. So I try nowadays spend as much of my time as I can, not executing, but learning and growing and shifting my opinions. And I think anybody in the world will benefit from shifting more of their time towards exploring.
One thing for me that I want to add on top of what you're saying is the best way for me that I'm able to explore more is by using those tools. We have a lot of tools, and then just using it for, I have been trying for a lot of our video production, for media creation. I just use a lot of tools. And then just the fact that you're using tools and sharing this with other people, more people start to asking you, like, what's the best tool for doing this? What is the best tool for doing that? So then you see that there's a lot of need of people asking, there's a lot of people asking those things. So if you're able to, just by using it, ChatGPT, Midjourney, HeyGen, use all those tools that start to like get more and more and more involved. You can see what is the limitation of the technology, and then you can, if you want to go even deeper, it's like what is the gap, what those tools do that what they don't do, and then you can feel that gap. So
Yeah.
that's would work.
It's a great point, and there's absolutely going to be compounding returns here of what I just said with exploring. You can actually explore a lot more effectively using the latest AI tools, right? I basically have a ChatGPT or Gemini window open at all times and is asking it questions, right? Learning from it. It is so much better at exploring than even I am. So there's compound returns to using these tools, becoming more familiar with these tools, and then using that to leverage yourself up even more. So the earlier you can get started and the more consistently you can use it, lean into these tools, the better.
Amazing. And so today we talk about your past, how you got into the Gen AI Collective, and now we are transitioning from Gen AI Collective to AI Collective. You explain this change. We talk about the numbers, how big it is. One very interesting topic that you discussed was about the trust on humanity, trust on AI, and another very interesting other topics related surrounding this. And now, and very good recommendation. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
And and once more, thank you for being here and sharing this knowledge for thousands of people.
Yes. Well, thank you, Roan. This was a pleasure.
And see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.